Young Calf Boston Sports Podcast, and this week we are, I think, getting back in somewhat of a rhythm. We're changing it up in one way. We're doing a live stream, but we're going to try and touch on all three sports. I think nothing is off limits, Dad. I don't know. We'll try and give it as much structure as we can, especially going forward. Jumping into this new format, we'll probably make some changes, and it'll seem a little weird, but as we go forward, it'll become more and more structure, right, Dad? How do you see this working out going forward? Now that the Patriots have showed us they don't really deserve as much time as we were giving them.
Yeah, we're just gonna go something similar to what we used to do, which is a show once a week where we touch on all the teams, except we're gonna be live, so people can chime in, comment, questions, and you know. But today, we're probably not gonna touch on the Patriots unless people insist on it. I'd like to focus on the Bruins and Celtics. We gave them way too much love yesterday. We're not going to be doing a Patriots pregame, postgame show anymore. We're going to try to stick with Monday night, touching on all three teams. And, especially given the Celtics the love they deserve because they are the reigning champs and they're amazing. And then you get the Bruins who off to a rough start, but they're still loaded and they're still definitely good enough to win a championship. And they did everything they can to load up and win a championship. And we like to focus on teams in Boston that go for championships. And right now, the Celtics and Bruins are the only ones. The Red Sox, Patriots are not exactly swinging for the fences. So they're building for the future. Now, let's see. All right. So, do we
What do
start
you
with the
what do
Bruins
you
or the
want to touch on?
Celtics?
Yeah, let's talk about the let's talk about the Bruins because we are going to probably have to spend most of this later part in the Celtics because again it's semi pregame, right? So let's talk about the Bruins,
Mhm.
right? Matt Patra got an assist last night. He's moving up a little bit in the lineup, playing a bit of second line minutes, which we're super excited about. My buddy Andrew Bailey, he talked about, uh, Martian being a bit lackluster, and then a few minutes later, Martian seals the overtime for him. So that was kind of a bit of a nice surprise seeing Martian get on the scoreboard for a few games. Dad, I mean, like this is almost like repeats of last year. And so, really quickly, I'll touch on. So, I was beyond happy at school today. I put the Bruins flag up on my chalkboard. Yeah, and you're in Toronto, I'm pretty sure. So, I'd imagine that was a lot of drama. I mean, if you couldn't escape the wounds as a Leafs fan, you walked into the first game as a again against the Bruins, you lose in overtime again, just like you lost in overtime in Game 7. It's just like fresh wounds. There were so many salty Leafs fans. I mean, my
They're gonna
condolences to
break
Leafs
through one of
fans.
these days. I'm telling you.
Eventually,
Every year, the Bruins hope to play the Leafs in the playoffs. One of these days, they're gonna break through. They're just too
yeah.
talented. Hopefully, it doesn't happen anytime soon. But the Bruins, not the start I envisioned. That's for sure. And you know, I hate to say it, but Montgomery, I feel like has to go. It's just not working with him. And I would like a coach to come in that has some influence, isn't afraid to push back against, Neely, against Sweeney. I'd like an offensive guy so he can look at these players in practice and go, there's not enough here offensively. I need some offensive talent because that is their biggest problem. I cried about this all last year before the playoffs. The old bull was right. What ultimately doomed the Bruins in the playoffs was their offense. It wasn't their goaltender, it wasn't their defense. Both of those were excellent. I need an offensive guy to come in here and shake things up, saying, no, 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 this dude is not a second line player. He's going down there. Who do you got for prospects? Give me the Lysol kid. Let me try him. Patra is way more talented than Coyle offensively. Let's move him up because it's just not working. The offense is just so bogged down. And I get it. The defense has been pretty bad. The goaltending has been shaky. I'm not worried about those though. They're just too talented in those two departments. By the end of the year, I feel like those will be locked up and perfectly fine. But again, we need to see more offense. And this team has showed nothing yet to show that even though they added Lindholm, they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think one of the biggest telling and kind of funny situations I saw with how bad our offense has been is I was looking at the box scores or the games for the NHL coming up. And they have like the star to watch for all the games. And you saw like, Evangie Malkin, you saw Connor McDavid. You saw McKinnon on there. The Forsberg kid from like Nashville. Can you guess, Dad, who the star to watch was for the Boston Bruins? Not against the Leafs, but the game before that. I think it was against Nashville.
I don't know. Who
It
was it?
was Koepke or whatever his name is, our fourth line player, because that's what
Oh,
ESPN's AI is telling him is our standout guy. So I mean, it's really rough out there for Bruins fans when it
not
comes to
good.
trying to. And my buddy Andrew and Autumn, they're huge Bruins fans, and I was like, you don't have to watch the Bruins unless the fourth line is out there, because that's where all the sparks come from. It seems. So Jeff Unknown, I agree with the old bull. I will say though, the Bruins absolutely dominated the first and third periods on Saturday against that Leafs team, and no, I mean that maybe that's a spark game. That's a huge grudge match. You got to get up against the Leafs. It's good to see the team show up and actually win it. It does suck we had to go to overtime. I was hoping we could have closed it out, but I mean that might be a turning point win, Dad. I mean, how do you feel about the win overall against the Leafs? At least of that one game in a microcosm.
I mean, if it delays Montgomery getting fired, I'm not crazy about it. But a lot of that the last 2 years that's plagued the Bruins, having a lead, 2 minutes left in the game, and then they choke it away. So again, could use a coaching change there. Montgomery has been the coach for the last 2 years, and that's been the biggest Bruins problem, besides the offense, which is giving up leads in the last couple minutes of games and periods. And here it goes, rearing its ugly head again. Toronto's good. They're super offensive. They're super talented, but that's no excuse, man. It's supposed to be hard to score a goal on you, even if they have pulled the goalie, knowing that's all they're trying to do, and you're just setting up a barricade in front of your own goaltender. It's supposed to be hard, and the Bruins have a uncanny knack for giving up goals in that situation. It's just terrible. We just need a fresh start, I feel like.
Man, so the old bull's calling for a lot of resumes to be submitted in New England. So that's Mayo you want out, and that is
Yep.
Montgomery. I'd be Dad. I'd be like 1 year ago. Could you believe that would be what you and I both agree on? That Joe Mazzulla is by far and away the best coach in New England. I mean, and I think it's not even a competition at this point. Joe is the man, and my dad and I were ripping on Joe last year. We had a bunch of problems, but now it's Monty and it's definitely Mayo on the chopping block. And I completely agree. Monty, he was supposed to come in, be a young players kind of coach, help develop those guys. I think Pete's the one who pointed that out, and Monty has not provided that for the Bruins at all. Lysel still down um, in Providence, and Patra is def. I mean, I appreciate Patra being up, but it took him long enough to move him up in lines, and Patra still gets frozen out some games and has really low minutes compared to others. So I'm not.
And he plays with stiffs.
Yeah.
And he plays with stiff wingers. Like wingers are no good. I'm so sick of seeing Potter with these wingers that are just not talented.
Yep.
When he's still rotating low Ryan, what the hell are you doing? Stop with that. He is not your sixth or seventh best defenseman. Low Ryan is way better than that. I don't care if he makes some mistakes. They're young players. They're going to make mistakes. Stop benching them the next game. Let them get their damn confidence. It's just, I don't want you turning them into defensive robots who do nothing but back check and worry about their own end. We need offense. Let
Yep.
them take chances. Let Low Rye take a chance here and there. Let Patras feel like he can make offensive plays. And, if he doesn't get back and defend his zone 100% of the time, I'm going to be benched the next game. Stop with that crap. They're not going to learn, these young kids. It's infuriating. And they've been
I mean,
doing this even before Montgomery, going way back to Claude Gillian.
yeah, and I mean, Jeff Unknown, I think that's a perfect segue into Swayman, right? If you're paying $8 million for that guy on the back end, you got to be able to take a chance here and there. And I mean, Swayman has to make up for those, gaps and those risks, and hopefully it pays off in some actual goals. So, I mean, how do you feel about Swayman so far, Dad, with this contract? Do you think, he put his money where his mouth is? I know it's only a few games into the season. Jeff Unknown here, Swayman is looking solid. He's definitely earning that big contract. Do you agree?
Well, most of the time he is. Not all the time, though. You can tell he didn't have a training camp. That is shown because there's some goals sometimes you're like, wow, Swayman, that goal is not like you. But he still makes 10 bell saves here and there. He's just not at the level he was. It's okay though. He has all season to get there. Not worried about Swayman. We saw what he does in the biggest moments on the biggest stage in the Stanley Cup last year. Single-handedly, almost took Florida Panthers to Game 7, the best team in the world. He almost did that. So, and that's a good
Yep.
question, Jeff. I'm kind of talking on my butt, saying just replace Montgomery because I don't really have a replacement. All I know is I would like an offensive guy brought in here, kind of like what I wanted with the Patriots. Get me. I'm not worried about the defense. Their defense is loaded with talent. They will figure it out by the end of the year. They're going to be awesome defensively when the playoffs come around. I have no doubt about that. Swayman's going to be awesome. Fix the offense. The offense has been broken forever. When your second line has 2 goals between Coyle and Marchand in like their last 30 something games, that is terrible. That is broken. You can't have that. I know Marchand's old and he's a step slower than he used to be, but he's not that bad. He's not that bad where he should have 2 damn goals in his last 30 freaking games or something, 3 goals, whatever
So
it is.
yeah, I mean, with Martian, it's tough, right? Because we've heard a lot of rumblings about him with Geeky, kind of like being a bit of a diva with who he plays in his line with. I mean, how much of this is, like you mentioned, Martian's good, but how much of it is this a mental thing with Martian trying to shoehorn matchups and everything into his game? And it's just obviously not working. So I'm
If he's
wondering,
the captain, he should not be doing that. You're the
well,
captain. You're supposed to be another coach out there. You're supposed to be in line with your coach, your head coach, and he should not be doing that. He
yeah,
should
I
be
mean,
beating
I've
that
read at
drum
least
of
two
whatever coach
reports.
says I'm going to play with.
I've read at least 2 reports of Martian wanting does not want to play with the young guys that much. So I don't know if that's why maybe Monty took some time to get Patra into that second line because Martian wanted his guys and then finally they moved Patra up. So it's tough because not a lot of stuff comes out. A lot of the hockey guys are very baity. The spit and chicklets guys kind of sucks. Like I feel like the hockey um, coverage is almost worse than any sport when it comes to like these guys making these claims like they're true. But if Martian is, you know, forcing his guys in there and not letting the coaches make the decision, then I think Martian's a big problem. And I brought that up before the season started. I'm wondering how much Martian's going to have a negative effect on the season as he gets older. It feels like he's doing the opposite of like the Chara. It seems like I don't know. I haven't seen too much
Yeah,
grace with this, so that's what's
I
frustrating for me.
I don't like that. But Martian should be on a line with Patriots and Lysol.
Yeah.
Those are the three most talented guys after the top three, after Lindholm, Pasta, and Zaka. Those are the next 3 guys. Put them together and see if you freaking got something. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that's our 15 minutes for them. Let's jump over to the Celtics.
Oh, and I will say one thing really quick about the Bruins. My dad had a very creative, like I think 10 regarding the goals. Yeah, in a minute, against the goals it goes against, and that's not going too well. The other thing my dad said was that they were going to fall for the perfection line again, which would be Lindholm, Marchand, and Pastrnak, and that's been making an appearance in those games. So that's kind of scary in that regard, right? Kind of. So uh, moving on
Yeah.
to any comments on that before we move on to the Celtics?
No, what we have all year to touch on it, but I'm not
Okay.
worried about the Bruins, so unless some
Yeah.
changes don't come at some point and we just beat our head against the same wall. But anyway.
Yeah. All right. Celtics. I mean, every night that they are on is an absolute pleasure. The biggest problem I have with this team is that they do not play every day. And I wish they did because I absolutely love watching them. They're an absolute pleasure. And man, I mean, big game tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know if I could check this without killing the stream, but I'm really curious if Giannis is in tonight. Do you know that? Do you know, Dad, off the top of your head if he's playing? Real quick, as you're looking at that, Jeff Unknown, I'm predicting an exciting Celtics win tonight. I don't think it will be a blowout. I think the Bucks will make us earn it. Jeff, do you know they're on the second night of an away back to back? They had just lost. I think they played in Brooklyn, lost to Brooklyn, and now they're coming out to play against us, and we're rested. This is a very similar thing that my dad and I cried about. We cried a lot
Yeah.
um, because they did this to us. The NBA did this to us, the opposite side of it, where we had a big, tight game. I think it was like Minnesota. We went to like overtime. And the next game, we had to play face Milwaukee, and away, back to back. And uh, Joe Mazzulla pretty much benched his guys for the entire second half. So I don't. If I'm the Bucks, I might take a page out of Joe's book and bench my guys and spite the NBA of like you're going to put probably one of the biggest matchups you can get in the Eastern Conference on the second night of an away back to back and kind of spite them. So that's why I think this game might be a blowout for that exact reason. So, Dad, you got any updates?
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, we tell it like it is here. We don't just, the Bucks are getting screwed tonight. That's all there is to it.
Bucks
And
are getting
you
screwed,
know,
100%.
we cried about this last year. We want to see good primetime games. I want to see the Celtics get tested. And when tonight ends up in a blowout, which it's probably going to, the Celtics had their little trap game against Detroit the other day. They almost lost that one. Probably looking ahead to Milwaukee. But here comes Milwaukee. Playing a game last night, traveling, not far traveling. Don't get me wrong, but it's still traveling. And they're on the night of back to back, and here we go again. It's just the NBA being stupid. You have a premier matchup like this. Why is it so hard to make sure both teams have the day off before? I just don't get that. So here we go. But Matt, what did you think of that Detroit game the other day?
Yeah, the Detroit game was tough, right? Because we were still shooting well. They were still shooting well. I don't know if it's something where we weren't running a lot of sets and they were just kind of letting the guys play out there and Joe wasn't getting too involved. I don't know if that was a chess match to not show too much. But I mean, this just goes back to the parity in the NBA. I feel like the NBA is the best league right now to watch in the world when it comes to the amount of skill. No matter where these sucky teams are, they put on the court. Cade Cunningham is really good. And Jaden
Yeah.
Ivey, same thing, right? These guys are athletic. They're out there. They're running fast. I mean, I think it's like you said, Dad. They probably were just thinking of Milwaukee. And everyone thought that game was going to be over very quickly. And I think the best part of that game is that it really showed that a lot of the issues that we hoped were gone at the end of last year, which seem to be gone, are carrying over into this year. They flipped the switch. Are they a team that can flip the switch? They flipped the switch at the end. Tatum, I think, scored like 8 or 10 of the last 18 points for the Celtics. Huge game for Tatum. And I mean, they really just said, you know what? I'm tired of messing around and came through. So it was a weird game. It sucked that we even let them get close, but it's almost a good thing to see them deal with adversity and come back and end up winning that game.
All right. Hey, Sean Raff. Hey, good to see you, bud.
What's up,
Thanks
Sean
for chiming
Rafferty?
in there. A little hand
Yes, sir.
symbol. You know, the game the other night, and this has been a concern of mine. I haven't brought up because it just they hadn't given us a reason to yet. The first two games, the starters basically didn't play the fourth quarter, right? And that's amazing. Like we love that as fans, especially the old bull and young cab. We look towards long term. We preach load management all the time, and it worked last year. That team went in rested. They blew everyone out, never went past 5 games. That's what we want. My concern is they're still NBA players. They still like their numbers, right? And I just can't help but wonder, did they take a little bit off the gas when it comes to defense to keep these games a little closer, to make sure they get some fourth quarter minutes to help their, because they're not, none of them are going to get their points per game, rebounds if they only play 3 quarters. I mean, that's just natural. That's just not going to happen. So, you know, are they maybe giving only 90% on defense, like subliminally knowing that, like, to play the fourth quarter, keep this game a little closer than, you know, I'm not necessarily saying they're saying that in their head, but if we're being honest, I don't know. Do they, and I felt like the other night was kind of that. Celtics scored like 70 points in the first half, 70 something. And then over the next quarter and a half, they scored like 20. And then, like you said, Matt, they flicked the switch and they woke up. But it's like, well, what happened during that almost quarter and a half? Like, did I felt like they just kind of got away from what they normally do, kind of turned off the defense a little bit, and I don't know. They got their fourth quarter minutes and points the other night, but I'm just
You
I'm just
know,
interested to see if there's more evidence of that.
I think you can't like discount Psycho Joe, right? There's a really good chance
Yeah,
that there's a really good chance this is like a wet football situation with Bill Belichick, where Joe literally treated that game like practice. There were a few times when the
that's
Pistons were
true.
going on runs in that fourth quarter or a third quarter, where I was like, he's going to call a timeout, and they looked to the bench, and Joe's like, nope, Figure it out. I would not be shocked at if Joe treated that game like a practice, a simulation, right? Oh, well, what if I had no timeouts and this was the playoffs? Figure it out. And I mean, what a better opportunity than against the Detroit Pistons teams that it really doesn't matter. Like you said, they're playing the long game. They got a taste of the championship. So
Mm.
I like the take. And Joe, if anything, he likes to emulate successful coaches, and that's something a successful
Mm.
coach would do. This is a learning opportunity for that team, and I know he loves it. So wow, that's really interesting, Old Bull. This is Jeff Unknown. I would never say such a thing. I'm hoping they aren't doing that, but it's possible. If I think I was a player, I'd be happy with the fourth quarter rest. Yeah, I mean,
These stars like their numbers, though, Jeff. You never know, and I like your take too, Matt. It's maybe Missoula did kind of manipulate that to keep it close in some way, and because they had not been challenged their first two games. That's for sure. They were like literally practices those first two games. It was like nothing there. So I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Psycho Joe. You never know. We got to get Jeff Unknown back on the show for a guest appearance. So did
this
we do
is
that once?
we did, and
Yes.
and we're and
He was
we're
good too.
going
He was
to.
really good.
We're going to.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like not making it janky. Like my dad mentioned at the start of the post game. My life is just kind of upside down right now. Now that I've moved, as you can see, I'm making dinner for my kids as I'm trying to do this thing. So, Jeff, once we can get a little bit better structure around this thing, we're definitely gonna have you on, especially to talk about all this stuff. And I think was today the sports equinox. This is the one of the days of the year where we have every single sport at the same time or something like that. So
No, that would be tomorrow, I believe.
tomorrow
Tomorrow would be.
is that
Yeah,
when the
Thursday. There's no NFL. Wait. No, what is today? Monday. Oh, you're right. Never mind. There
yeah
is. It's
yeah
like everything. Yeah. Yeah.
everything's going on today. So I mean, it's exciting stuff. I'm really happy to talk about a lot of this stuff. It's funny because I really don't want the Dodgers or the Yankees to win. I know we're not going to talk about baseball, but a lot
I
to
don't
talk
know.
about in our world right now. Yep, I
Yeah.
love that. Had a lot of fun. Very honored, and we were honored to have you, Jeff Unknown. We're honored to talk to you every time,
Yeah.
man. Super thankful for you taking time out of your day. So we
Yeah.
we will definitely get you on. Maybe next Monday, Jeff, if you're available. Dad, you shouldn't have called me to ask if I was available. You should have called Jeff to figure out what days he's available. Because
I know. Pretty much. Right.
but
But I want to itch another scratch that I just can't stand again. The first three games, Tatum gets Player of the Week. Thank you, NBA, for recognizing him. But you turn on First Take, Get Up, the Colin Coward Show.
Bronny, got
There
to
is
talk about
like
Bronny.
nothing, just nothing on the Celtics picking up where they left off. Tatum. There was a little bit when they destroyed the Knicks on that opening night, but man, nothing since then. And there's probably not going to be anything because now the narrative is, yeah, the Celtics, they're loaded. Well, we'll see them in the playoffs. We'll see if they stay healthy. And no one wants to talk about him. But we'll talk about a guy who has no business being in the NBA. He's only there because of his father. And we'll
Yep.
talk about that. We're going to keep talking about the Lakers. That's so annoying. The Lakers are off to this 3-0 start, because LeBron's playing heavy minutes, and it's like, have fun now, guys. Yep, Lakers, they're doing what the Bruins do. They're treating regular season games like playoff games. That's what the Lakers are doing right now. Like, okay, good job, man. Hey, you know what? Probably be a top 3 seed. You keep that up all year, and guess who's going to have no gas in the tank when the playoffs roll around? LeBron
Yeah.
and AD. AD's getting up there too now. He's no
Father
young
Time
pup.
is undefeated. That is for sure. And LeBron's it's gonna catch up to him. It's got to be this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, enjoy the Tatum MVP talk, because it's not going to happen. Because again, he's going to be sitting out a lot of these fourth quarters because they're that dominant, and you can't put up MVP numbers when when you're not playing the fourth quarter in half your games. And another thing is, being the best player on the team with the best record in the NBA is no longer what it used to be. It does not. That used to be the first guy who would get all the attention. Oh no, this guy's the best player on the best team. He gets, who can catch him for the MVP? That's usually what it is. Those days are over now. It's about flash. It's about numbers. He is putting up more assists. that'll help. He's always a high rebound guy anyway, high point guy. The assists will help. Being more of a defensive impact player like he has been will help. But ultimately, when you're sitting half of your fourth quarters, you're not going to get MVP because it's numbers based, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think this goes all the way back to Bill Russell. I saw this picture of the MVP race in one
Yes,
year when it was Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain,
great
like Oscar
point.
Robertson, right? And you see Bill Russell won the MVP, and he averaged like 23 rebounds per game, 16 points, and so many blocks. Then you got and he was at like 46 minutes a game. Then you had Wilt Chamberlain averaging like 50 points a game, 30 rebounds, and 48 minutes, like more than 48 minutes. And Bill Russell won because Bill Russell was the best player on the best team. He was the most valuable piece on the most valuable team in the league. And again, yeah,
Yep.
like you said, it's about clicks nowadays. And even though we are in like the biggest market in like all of sports, it's still not enough because LA is driving it. And man, I mean, there was like the NBA, like League Pass. I saw this other thing. They had a game update and like kind of an article on every single game that happened on Saturday, but they did not have the Celtics. The first game was the Lakers and Sacramento. After that, they
Talk
had
about
every other
luck.
game, but they didn't even make a poster comment about the Celtics Pistons. You know what? It's just boring now. The Celtics are the best, and they're the boss. And that, I mean, would you have it any other way? I don't mind.
Oh
I like being
no, I love
yeah.
it.
What's up,
I'll
Jason?
I'll
What's
take it
up, Pella?
anytime.
Yeah. What's up, man?
Jonathan, what's up? What's up, Lap? Uh,
Yeah, Jonathan. My bad, Jonathan. Oh yeah, I'm like running
yeah,
around.
Jonathan. Oh my God, good to see you, bud. One of my old favorites from the jail. Absolutely awesome guy. Like many of those guys up there. Always appreciate you jumping in there, John. Really do. And yeah, we got a good one tonight. Hopefully, looks like Giannis is playing. The only one out is uh, crusty old man Middleton.
Yep, street
So
clothes
I don't
Middleton.
know.
Yep.
Street clothes Middleton. We'll see if the Bucks have anything left in the tank after playing last night. Absolutely, John. Drake May is legit, my man. Hopefully he gets back in this week. That should have been his first. He got robbed of his first win. That would have been a blowout yesterday. He was already carving up the Jets. That's a shame. That game's definitely not that close if Drake May plays the whole thing. That's for damn sure. It's too
Yep,
bad
and I
he
and I
took that
think
cheap
Drake May
shot. So
commented. He posted like the Instagram, like how about the boys or how about my fellas or whatever. So Drake May,
yeah.
nice little leadership nod there, not being sour grapes about getting taken out of the game. And I think John Drake May is 100% legit. He put up Dan Marino numbers in those first two games. I know I have said it like
Mm.
6 times in this podcast. I'm gonna keep saying it because it was joy to watch, especially after what we've been dealing with. I'm excited for more Drake May. I'm really hoping his head injury is not as bad as it seems. My dad sent me an article today. Mayo had some comments on it, which I'm not 100% sure how much I like Mayo talking nowadays because it seems like he gives a lot of bad information, and it's like no information is better than bad information. Gerard, you're not being forced to say anything. You don't have to lie. You don't have to be weird, but it seems like he just
there,
can't help himself. So hopefully we hear from May.
before we
I don't
jump
know.
off, there is, I
Go
mean, if
ahead.
Mayo's telling the truth, it is good news. It is because, on the post game, I said, this is my hopes, is the NFL saw it, and because of all the heat they took from Tua, the NFL is like, no, 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 get him in the blue tent. And what my hopes was, I'm fine. He's like trying everything he can to get back up there. Said, guys, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But the concussion protocol people just would not pass him. And that's what I'm hoping happened. And that's what basically Gerard Mayo said happened. If you go back and read the press conference today. So hopefully he's actually telling the truth on this one. Like Matt says, he likes to give out a lot of false info. So, lead the meter on or just, contradicts himself later on. So hopefully that's the case. And, hopefully we see him back on the field this week for another game where he develops and gets more growth. So,
Yep.
but yeah, that's it for the show. We got the game coming on. The old Bulls going to take off. I got a
Go
pickleball
Celtics.
thing I got to get to. All right, go Celtics. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will see you next Monday. We'll let you know what time.
All right. Bye bye.